This is the meeting of the Public Garden Environmental Advisory Committee. And we're going to go around and see who's here tonight. Sorry, Jeff. You want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Jeff Wayne.
Sharon Elwell.
Bonnie Hallam.
Steve Locker.
Charmaine Huffman. Peggy Kowalski.
And we have on in virtual.
I'm Kristen Cooper.
I'm Michelle Schofield.
Okay, welcome everybody this evening. The first order of business is to actually approve the minutes from our April meeting. I think I shared the link with everyone. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I heard Jeff first. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the minutes have been accepted. Tonight, we're going to start off with an update from our very wonderful Earth Day celebration. Thank you, first of all, to everyone on the EAC for all the work that you did to put that event together. And it was just a lovely day, and I think people learned a lot. But let's talk a little bit about the follow-ups. Can I just get a report from Peggy on the thank yous?
All of the thank you notes have been sent. I did have some difficulty that Shar helped me and forwarded. So everyone has been thanked, and we did get some very positive feedback. And mostly the people that did get that were saying that they were glad they could attend and thought it was a success.
Thank you. Sharon?
I sent thank yous to Mayor Keffer and Mary Gay Scanlon, and I will be sending one to Councilwoman Laura Wentz.
Councilor. Thank you. So, and now what about the bags? This is I think it was great. We really wanted to make an emphasis on using reusable bags in Upper Darby, and we sort of kicked off the event at the Earth Day celebration and had some signage around that, and we were fortunate enough to have a bunch of bags donated to us from various places, and Shar did work on that. You want to tell us about what we had, Shar, and what's happening now with the bags?
Yes, for our Earth Day event, Pico donated 15 usable bags. Acme donated 92 large reusable bags. Wild Rock donated 9 small reusable bags and 110 large reusable bags. Fresh Grocer donated 48 reusable bags. Bonnie reached out to Mayor Keffer about placing the remaining reusable bag from our Earth Day event at the one center, and she said yes. On May 2nd, I dropped off the remaining reusable bags at the one center. Tonight is our official public announcement that starting tomorrow, they will be up to 5 reusable bags per person ready for pickup at their one center.
That's great. Thank you so much. We'll try to keep that stocked so that if people don't have reusable bags, they can pick them up there. I'm thinking that maybe at some point, if we can get enough or we can raise some money, maybe we will get some to put in the libraries and other places around
Well, that'd be cool.
the township, so that people can go to other places as well. But again, just so this is going out to the public, anybody who's listening, please let everyone know that we're trying to change our behaviors in Upper Darby so that we are using reusable bags and that we're not using plastic bags. So that's our goal. The other thing that happened at the Earth Day celebration is that we made another contact with the folks from Hero Advocates. Steve, you want to tell us a little bit about what that is and can you follow up on that?
Certainly. I wonder if I could read something about inertia first.
Sure, please read.
Inertia. It's easier to stay put than to move. And it's easier to remain in one direction and to change direction. It takes effort, energy to change position and direction. And having a routine is comforting in some ways, but it isn't always the best thing for us. A while back, Upper Darby made the bold step to begin single stream recycling. Most of us agree that was a smart move for the township and the environment. We've continued single stream for many years now. In some ways, it too is comforting. But that doesn't mean it cannot be improved upon. Of the numerous categories of recyclable materials we send out is glass. Glass is one of the more dense, heavier items that we have all the way. In addition, very little glass gets effectively recycled. Much of it is merely trash. So it costs us a lot to merely trash it in the name of recycling. A company, Aero Aggregates, sent a representative to our event on April 22nd at Gillespie Park. They produce samples of recycled glass products that they make. Some are in front of us right now. Their products might be a worthwhile use for our spent glass. But more importantly to us, they may be a cheaper way for Upper Darby to recycle the glass. Aero Aggregates is located in Eddystone, PA, which is closer than where most of our recyclables go. Obviously, it costs us more to send heavy items further. My point isn't so much to argue for Aero Aggregates and recycling glass, but rather to examine several or many of the recyclable categories to see if there might be a better way. It might be worth Upper Darby's effort to move or change direction. So in addition, they sent out a young man representative from Aero Aggregates to talk about what they do with that glass and how they turn it into a product that then they can sell. They're looking for someone to supply them with a raw material. I don't know if Upper Darby would be the right place to get it from. I don't know if we could supply them anything, but it might be something we could look into.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's great. Thank you for that statement. I think that that's really important, and as an advisory committee to the township, I think that that's part of our job to reflect on and examine what is, and also to think about what could be. And so I think that that's a really important statement in general, and particularly around the glass. And just for public knowledge, the glass, what happens with glass is that it's actually a very valuable resource. However, when it's recycled in single stream, what usually happens is that the glass gets all broken up in the trucks. And glass is very particular, so you have various colors. And the colors cannot be mixed when they recycle. And so now you have a whole bunch of broken glass that's all mixed up, and that can't really go to be recycled, and it has to end up being trashed. So you just spend more, as Stephen said, to trash a recyclable than you would have spent had you just put it in the trash to begin with. So really thinking, and we'll do some more reporting and conversation around the glass, whether or not Aero Aggregates is the place or not. We should explore this some more so that we can make some good recommendations to the township.
I just wanted to add one thing. I talked to that gentleman and I asked him if it was useful for pavement, and he said if it was permeable, and he said yes, it's a permeable surface, so it would mitigate stormwater runoff.
Yeah.
And help infiltration.
Great. Any other questions about that? Great. Kristen, you want to talk a little bit about our pollinator garden and what's going on over at Gillespie Park with that right now?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. It's good to see everybody. Stephen, thank you for that wonderful presentation. I had a chance to listen to Aero Aggregates also at Earth Day, and I I think there's tremendous possibility there for the township to get involved, so we'll just keep talking about that. But as for the pollinator gardens at Gillespie, I think we have, since last time we met, we clearly identified the locations and we identified the native plants that would go in. So now I think the next step is to just kind of clear an area and get some planting done. I think it's safe to say that now is the time. So I'd like to, offer up if anybody wants to take that next step with me. And, other than this weekend, because it's Mother's Day, I'm pretty much free numerous days during the week for the rest of the month. If anybody, maybe our committee can get together after this and come up with some planting days or just clear the area out and start thinking about getting some stuff in there.
Kristen, ideally, if the township was to be involved in this, if we brought a backhoe out to do some of this helpful, that ground is extremely rocky. And
Right.
Ideally, what you want to do is till it and then level it. So if you have a 20-yard section that is then level, water as it spills down through that bioswale will rest in each of those areas. And when it fills, it will spill over and then go on down.
Right.
So we have mentioned some of this to the head of Parks and Recreation, but it has to get on his jobs list. We can certainly plan after that work is done, but ideally that work will be done first.
Okay. Are we missing our window for planting? I know, May and June, obviously this is also a big endeavor for the township. Would it be worthwhile if that can't happen until June or July, which is not ideal, obviously, for planting anything? Could we do a small garden that can just be done by hand in an area just as a, like a demo?
Sure, we could.
It's not the spot that started on first day, that can be filled out, and more things planted in there as well. So that definitely could be added to.
Yeah, I know that the township has a laundry list of things they need done throughout the township, so we may be on the list, but we may not be on there till the end of June, and we're gonna miss that big window. Even if we just got a handful of things in there, some perennials, and if everybody felt that was a good idea, maybe we can move forward there and do a small section.
That is a good idea. You probably need to have a group of 2 or 3 people who are going to provide maintenance, because as you mentioned, July and August are tough on these plants. So
Right.
you need to be watering them every 2 to 3 days. They'd have to get water
Right,
because they're completely exposed out in that area.
right.
Yeah, and because we're gonna have to start watering the trees over at Gillespie soon anyway, they can be added, that area could be added to the watering schedule as well. So I think that we can do that. So that's the good news, that we've got something started and we're gonna expand on it, and it is on Bill's agenda. I've written it in about a number of things that need to get started there. And I'll be meeting with him. I had a meeting with him last week, and I'll probably meet again with him next week to keep these things moving along. But one of the bad news things is that we had applied to the Xerxes Foundation for a big kit with 1,100 plugs to put in pollinator garden, and we did not get it. So I'm sad about that. We'll try again the next time. They wrote a very nice letter and said, please try again next time. So that's what we'll keep doing. And but we do have funds still from the DCCD, which is the Delaware County Conservation District, to buy more plants to put in there. And we have been very generously gifted a lot of seedlings from the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, and probably some of those can go there.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you.
Okay, great. Shimon, is the watershed thing still going on, or did
Yeah.
they finish their work? What's
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah, they've actually expanded it for 2 more meetings, and it started at 5, now it's 7. Plus, we have another brainstorming session. I think I mentioned the one we had back in the winter to put together that Venn sim model, put the items onto that, and we're going to do that again. And then we also have learning meetings in between, where presenters from the watershed project team who have certain expertise will present to whomever wants to attend. We also did the 5 of us, 3 of the young scientists who had been hired out of those 10 initially. Me, I was the one person from the water project team, there are 40 of us. And then the principal investigator of the three principal investigators, he's the main one from Drexel University Engineering. We presented out in Pottstown at the college out there on March 25th. And one of the things I learned in listening to that, the principal investigator said that there were only 2 spots in Eastwick where they could actually use the green stormwater infrastructure. I would say from all of the reading that I have done, I would disagree with that. And so he gave it a very pessimistic tone. Then he also said that all of those 104 acres of trees coming down in Cobbs Creek Parkway he had run it on their engineering models, had made no difference to the Eastwick flood situation. And in psychology, we look at aggregate impact, which is overall. So him saying that is like, it doesn't do any good to get an electric car because it's not going to do any help. Whereas what we're looking at is eventually getting everybody to have an electric car, if you know what I mean. So anyway, so I don't know what his goal is right now. And I know last time I mentioned the fact that I had read in their bios that the 3 principal investigators all had environmental justice in their background on their CV. So I don't know what he's up to. I went to another presentation at the University of Pennsylvania just a couple days before that, where a group of students, Penn students, had gone over to the Netherlands to look at how climate change has impacted a country that is all below sea level. And so how they're having to adapt. And then they came back and did a presentation that day. They divided the students up into 5 groups, wonderful presentations that they gave. And it was supposed to be compared with Eastwick, the situation in Eastwick. So then they had a panel of mostly of academics and governmental people talk. And 4 of them talked around it. Nobody actually mentioned Eastwick, and they were supposed to be comparing the Netherlands to Eastwick. Until a gentleman who was a 5th to present in the middle, who I would say was a gentleman from a country in the Middle East, maybe India possibly, but he's on the New York City government, and he started out with, unfortunately, we're dealing with intractable racism. At that point, I stuck up my fist in the air and yelled out, bravo, someone finally spoke it out loud, thank you. And then at the end of it, in the question section, I said, well, in view of the fact that since the 1700s, people of color have been relegated to these areas of a city which are low-lying. Currently, redlining is, it's in there are industrial sections around Superfund sites, toxic waste dumps, oil refineries. There was an explosion right next to Eastwick 5 years ago, 2017 or 2019, and so forth. And so given that the fact that the powers that have built that kind of system have them right where they want them, we're going to need a lot of things, including, like I mentioned last time, really good legal expertise and organizations with a lot of courage and so forth to really get this all to change. So there was that, and then also there was a gentleman from the Lenape tribe there who went up to the principal investigator afterwards, said he would like to work with the scientists on this project. And so that's all I got for today.
Thank you, Sharon, that's
Sure.
great. I just wanted to say that, just reinforce what Sharon says, that there's something that all of us can do. You can't look at the situation and say, what one person does isn't gonna make a change, but if everybody is doing it, then it will make a change.
Yeah.
And all of us can do things to actually help our waterways, including simple things like planting a a river-friendly garden. If you want to know more about those kinds of things, you can check out the Delaware River Keepers Network, and they'll give you a lot of information about how to plant river-friendly garden. You can put in rain gardens, you can do all sorts of stormwater management techniques in order to keep as much water from getting into, quickly into the creeks as you can. So everybody has a role to play, including planting trees. I didn't want to forget that. Everybody has something that they can do, and so let's all sort of recommit ourselves to trying to make sure that our waterways are both regulated as far as stormwater goes and also kept clean.
And my plan going forward too is our next meeting, which is hasn't been scheduled yet, but it's going to be sometime in July probably, is to actually, as I've frequently done already, is to question this principal investigator about his motivation for that presentation. Because as I've said, what I've read does not agree with what he's presenting as far as green stormwater infrastructure, and also that the impact of the Cobbs Creek trees being taken down. And like I said, aggregate impact, like you were just talking about.
Thank you.
Sure.
So a number of months ago, Kristen and I went to the school board meeting, and then we had a meeting with Superintendent McGarry and some of the folks from the school district. And I just wanted Kristen to catch us all up again with that, and what steps we need to take to move that forward.
Yeah, I have the advantage of being on a committee with Aranda Bedford. She's the communications director for Upper Darby School District. So I've shared some of our ideas, our committee ideas with her, and I think Upper Darby's ready. Dan McGarity, once he understood why we were there, I think felt pretty comfortable with introducing some environmental education in. I'm not sure what that looks like, but I do sense that Upper Darby is ready and willing. I think the best step is to really come up with a good solid plan for next year. You know, obviously we know the school year is winding down, so any efforts right now would probably just fall away. So maybe we can start putting our plan together for September of the new school year, and really come up with a solid plan on how we can get this process started. So I know Dan's on board, Aranda's on board, and those are the two individuals that can open the door for the idea. So still more work to be done, but I think we were really favorably received.
Yay.
Yeah, and I think that, they did say that they would be happy to meet with us on a regular basis, like a monthly basis. So once we get our plan together, we'll have another meeting, and then we'll start making some regular inroads on bringing some environmental education. Particularly, we talked about like an anti-littering campaign and more education around recycling techniques and how to do it, and things like that. So.
Right. What I would really love to do is I think a first big step would be to encourage them to start an environmental advisory committee of students in the high school, and maybe we could go and sort of mentor them as to how to form a committee, and we could guide them in the process over, the course of a couple months, and then we just sort of loose them to kind of run their own committee, give them suggestions on things they can do around the school, and let these young people just run with it. So, I love the idea of getting into the younger grades and doing the educational programs, but I think for the high school, I think we might benefit by helping them to establish some committees in the school as another form of club or a social activity.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
On the side note, be happy to meet with any or all down at the nursery. I mean, it's 3/4 of a mile from the school. Just have to come down.
Walking distance, yeah. That'd be a great idea. All right, Thank you, that's great. Any other comments or ideas that you want to share about, making some inroads at the school district?
I really think that teachers themselves are doing something, so that I think if there's a way to have materials as well as lesson plans geared, and even if it's something you do in April, because I think they're already doing it, but maybe having something more available to them, I think would help us.
I believe Kristen has some resources package available. And how much time the school district will allow, we don't know that yet. So
Yeah, and we, we have that organization that runs out of, Tyler Arboretum, and I always forget their name, Bonnie, you're gonna have to help me with this.
I think that was the, PEC, the Pennsylvania,
Resource Council.
I don't think it's the PRC. What's the name of the woman that you had spoken with?
It escapes me now, but they, just like Jeff said, they were willing to provide not only programming, but a whole host of materials as well for, educational purposes. So I think that stuff is easily available. We have what's called Curriculum Corner at the IU, where teachers will readily share curriculum out. And I grabbed some Earth Day stuff. So I have that like in the can of some teachers that shared some Earth Day things. So we could easily provide curriculum materials, for them if needed. So,
Yeah.
and this was another thing that we talked about, having access to the Upper Darby website. I think Bonnie and you and I talked about having a resource section there that the teachers could access. We could just load it up with information, links and things like that, and they can just have at it. So Aranda seemed okay with that. It's just have to jump through some hoops,
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you. Anything else on?
I just was at an event where handing out trees and bushes at an event with one of the other tree tenders on Saturday. And some of the pamphlets and information and so forth on why trees are helpful. And the kids that came up, they were really happy to receive the materials. They wanted all of them. And they seemed to have some knowledge about it already. They were very receptive. So I got the sense that they must be getting some of this in school. I think that they're getting some information from teachers in a very positive way.
Okay, so next on the agenda, the bridge at Gillespie. So everybody is eagerly anticipating the opening of the bridge at Gillespie Park that crosses over the Darby Creek and goes to the Swedish Cabin and vice versa, obviously, coming back from the Swedish Cabin area to Gillespie Park. And it's a beautiful bridge. We're all excited to have it open. It could possibly, from what we've heard from folks, be finished by May 18th. They have some other things that they have to do to it, and I'm gonna let Stephen talk about that because he is every day reports to me the next step of what's happening in the bridge. But the dedication of the bridge is yet to be determined. So we'll have to wait to hear about that.
So I guess the 18th is next Thursday, right?
And that's not set in stone, but there's.
We're going there anyway.
I just
Go
said,
ahead, Stephen.
Yes, of course, the bridge was dropped into place several weeks ago. And they built ramps. They have to be ADA readily available for ADA. So they must be less than 5 degrees ramp. And they had to adjust those, so it took a few days to get that right. Then they asphalted those paths. Yesterday and today, they were putting split rail fencing in for safety reasons around the ramps. I think they might finish that now. The last thing to do, from what I understand, is to put a glazing on the concrete that is on the bridge, and then it will be open. It's possible it will be open this weekend just temporarily before they do the glazing, but I wouldn't guarantee that. But very soon.
That's great. And if you even just going out there, walking the trail and looking at the bridge. It's just a really beautiful looking bridge, and I'm so happy that they put that split rail fencing. It looks so nice.
I'm gonna show you the off.
Yeah, really, really beautiful. So if you haven't had a chance to get out there and take a look at it, you should go out and just walk the trail, take a walk. It's worth it. And it's so beautiful out there. The trees that have been planted, almost, I mean, I would say 90% of them are out of their little protectors. Yeah, they're out of the tops of the tubes, and they're beautiful and green and doing really well, so, it's really quite a sight. New business, so one of the things that came up at a council meeting, was the fact that someone in the township had wanted to have bees, and we have an ordinance now where you can actually have bees in a Darby Township. But there are certain requirements that you have to have at your house in order to get a permit to do that. And unfortunately, someone was given a permit that did not fulfill those requirements, and so there was some controversy with the neighbors, and it was brought up in council. But people are still very interested in having bees in Upper Darby, and if the permits are filled correctly, people can do that. But so I reached out because the folks at a couple of the council folks had talked about the possibility of having apiaries, beehives, in some of our parks. Or in public spaces, and I said that I would check into that and see what would be available if we were interested in getting bees in some places. For instance, if we wanted to put bees in Gillespie Park, or if we wanted to put bees in some other areas around Darby and have like a community bee garden instead of a community vegetable garden. So these things are possibilities. So I actually did some research and found a number of places that that might be viable. But I also shared this with some folks that I know who are really knowledgeable about bees and beekeeping and conservation in the area. And as Christian has reminded us, we're really looking to have native bees like the rusty patch bumblebee coming into Upper Darby. And apparently having these beehives, these bees are not native bees, of course, they are European bees, and in some cases, when you put them in places like at Gillespie Park, they could compete with the native bees, and that's not something that we want to really put forward, to have the bees competing, the bees in beehives competing with us attracting the pollinators that we are trying to attract in these open spaces. So I think it requires more study from us about what we might want to do and how we might do this conscientiously, keeping in mind our goal to really have native bees and other pollinators come to our parks.
Due diligence, right?
Yeah, we need to do some due diligence, and if after we do due diligence and we're still interested, there are some resources out there. Sharon shared with me information about Pico putting in some beehives near their right away. Is that what they're called? Yeah, right away, where they have areas that they don't use anymore for public transportation. But we have a few of those in places around that maybe would be viable. So that's one thing. There's another organization called Planet Bee, and that has an adopted beehive program where they come out and beehive in, and they have someone who will come and do lessons around it, and will work with people to get honey and train people and things like that. So that's available. And then a third resource that we found, and a number of people have talked with, a lovely lady, I think her name was Shirley, at the birthday festival. I haven't written down, but the Grange does a wonderful program over there around, peace. And, they have some folks who have worked on this for many years, who would be happy to come out and talk with us, about, developing beehives, in our garden, if that's something that we wanted to do. But like I said, I think we need to study it some more, we need to talk to some more, people with expertise, and then, we can make some better recommendations. Other thoughts on this? Okay, next on our agenda is cooling centers. So on Saturday, 13th, there's going to be an environmental town hall, and that's going to be held at Beverly Hills Middle School. It's from 10 to 12:30. And this is going to be different from some of the other programs. They're not going to, it's not a program where you're just going to get information about climate change or what's happening out there, but it's actually going to talk about how do you manage, how do you cope now with increased weather, severe weather challenges, such as we've seen with lots more rain at one time, or higher winds, or heat, lots more heat, things like that. And one of the things that is being raised in here is the cooling centers. And people have talked about this, and like, where do people go? We have what's essentially in several areas of Upper Darby, what's called an urban heat island. In which, because there's no canopy of trees to cover that area, it gets really hot. Sharon and I were talking before coming in here, and Sharon, you want to just tell your little test that you do on your own?
Yeah, so my car has a, an external temperature, read inside, so, came for a meeting here actually last summer, and I noticed the temperature when I went into the meeting and when I came out, and then the difference when I went home to Drexel Hill, there was a 19-degree temperature difference.
Yeah, and this is actually substantiated in a lot of research, that there's about a 20% difference, 20 degrees difference in temperature in areas where there's a tree canopy versus areas where there is low tree canopy. And so that's one of the things we're trying to do, is to develop a tree canopy in the Darby in this particular areas. But in order to help folks who are in those areas, we may not have air conditioning, and we can go someplace. The idea of cooling centers has been brought up, and folks have asked, this has been brought up at council, like, where can people go, what does the township do? And we've really discussed this with a number of people, and the township follows the county plan for cooling centers, and I'm gonna let Shar talk to you a little bit about what the county has put in place.
Yes, I did some research today, and I found that on PA 211, the cooling centers in the Delaware County areas are mostly senior centers and libraries. So I'm put together a whole list with location, telephone numbers, and the hours of operation. Hopefully have available by next few days, but the list is about 95% completed. I just need to go over it and stuff like that, and let Bonnie look at it, and maybe do a little bit more research to see. And in addition to the libraries and the senior centers, are there any additional centers that offer cooling center that we don't know about in Darby?
Good.
Thank you, Shar. When I sent out information about the agenda, Char immediately sent me a whole bunch of information, and I was really pretty amazed that she had this at her fingertips. And so I think we have a good head start and can put something together, and we can put that on our website, on the Darby Township website, the EAC's page, so that people have that information. We can also share it on our Facebook page once we get that information. As the temperatures start rising now, I think it's going to be handy for a lot of people. Yeah. So, anything else on that, or does anybody have any input on the cooling center stuff and any more information? Okay, well, we have a whole bunch of things that impact the environment and events coming up in the month of May and June. We've already had a bunch of things that we've been doing, tabling in various places, but coming up on May 13th, there's the Environmental Town Hall I mentioned from 10 to 12:30 at Beverly Hills Middle School. There is the Health and Music Fair in Drexel Hill at the Drexel Hill United Methodist Church from 11 to 2. Rain garden planting at Stephen, you still need volunteers for that, and should they be in touch with you if they would like to volunteer?
We won't know till that morning.
Okay,
And the forecast for showers may keep some folks away.
okay.
But a perfect time to plant a rain garden.
Right. On May 20th, there's a resource fair in the 164 House District from 10 to 2 at the Caribbean Community Church. There's a Veterans Outreach Fair from 11 to 2, Delaware County Veterans Memorial on Westchester Pike. Tree Tenders of Upper Darby is going to be hosting the Youth Leadership Service Project from 9 to 12 in the English Run Nursery. If you'd like to come out and see what's going on there and help out some kids, you're welcome to join us. May 23rd is a Rain Barrel Workshop. This upcoming free workshop on stormwater management for residents this area. Each attendee will receive one free rain barrel, and you can register at the prc.org just before the East workshops. It's being held in the Gate Borough Hall at 6:30 p.m. On May 24th, 5 to 7 p.m., there's going to be a mushroom walk at the historic Oakwell Estate with the Philly Mycology Club. That's something I'm really interested in doing. That's going to be from 5 to 7, and that's in Villanova. And you can find out about this and the next thing that I'm going to announce on the DCBA website, the Darby Creek Valley Association website. Go there, and they have a lot of great events that are coming up if you're interested in nature and natural things. June 10th at Guanella Woods, they're going to be doing a tree ID walk and talk. There's also, I put on the agenda a couple of other things that are not on the agenda online, but on May 21st, there's a bird walk in Upper Darby. We have a new group here who are doing bird walks. This one is going to be at the Nelishorn South Branch Trail. It's right off of Garrett Road next to Barclay Square. It's going to be from 8 to 9:30 in the morning. And that's also, there's a gentleman, William Later. He's an arborist. He lives in Collingdale, and he runs these free programs. He's going to lead a tree walk entitled Vanquishing Tree Nightmares. All the things that people say why they can't get a tree. So hopefully he'll vanquish those nightmares. That's going to be 9 to 11 in Collingdale, 800 Reed Boulevard. So any other events that people know about that you want to share?
Just in relationship to Wayne Langer, he was out at the Pruning workshop, and he took care of a lot of things over near your tennis courts, did a really fine job, especially in his evergreen. And Heike speaks very highly about
Yeah, yeah, great. Anything else, any other business that we need to cover? I thought you were going to have a public comment, Evan Hunt, who is the chair of the Shade Tree Commission, but he's left the room, so,
He got scared.
yeah. Any other business? How about from people online? Anything else?
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Nothing from me either, Bonnie. Thank you.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Adjourn, motion to adjourn.
To adjourn.
And a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, Kristen, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. Bye.
You're all welcome to keep that glass, okay?
It's so lightweight.
I know, he uses paperweight.
Yeah, I was thinking the same, well, that won't work.
A light paper, or a light breeze, huh?
Light reading.
You do driveways in them?
I don't know if they shut off the line. Yet. So hopefully they have.
Light beam.
I wonder
You
how,
have to come back in and.
It might still be live, so.
They were.
wonder how hard it would be for a sidewalk application. Would it stand up over time? We wouldn't know, right?
Well, I think it would be more for underlayment, that's my guess.
Uh-huh.
And that's what he said they used it for, for about 25 projects.
Foundation.
They added into an underlayment of concrete,
Uh-huh,
not as heavy,
right.
so, and it still does the job.
Yeah, I watched the thing from Penn State Extension on that, how they have all those layers going on and so forth, yeah.